So good morning, everyone. Welcome to the Serenity series, which is legal webinars that are serious about your success. We're actually going to be looking today at intellectual property and Facebook for business use. And to start with, just a little bit about me. Most of you have seen me around Facebook, and if you haven't, I'm a homeschooling mum of 3 kids who, as I just said, they're all sick today, so I'm really flustered because I've been running around making sure they've got everything they need and convincing them that they're not on their last legs and that they will survive the next half an hour to an hour. I'm also a lawyer and a mediator by profession, and I am absolutely passionate about helping small business because I truly believe in the small business paradigm, and that small businesses are heart-centered, loving, caring small businesses are the force that can change the world for the better. And finally, I'm an entrepreneur, which is something I love doing. I love the connection that it brings me, and I love the ability to transcend traditional boundaries and do things in new ways and really make a difference. I think we've got
second talk.
Mute the other audios that are here. There we go. So recently I conducted a survey of 102 entrepreneurs, and it was in connection with the legal writing challenge that I was doing. But it was really interesting to find out the information that came out of that. And one of the things that I asked was what social media platforms people used regularly to promote or market their business. And the thing that I found was that the vast majority used Facebook, either a Facebook business page or participation in Facebook groups. So Facebook is really the focus of a lot of entrepreneurial marketing at the moment. And one of the things that keeps coming up about Facebook and using Facebook for business is this question of intellectual property. What is it? What does it mean for my business? What do I need to know about it? So looking at what is intellectual property at its most basic is just the creations of our mind. It's things like inventions, literature, art, designs and symbols, and names and images used for business. So it's pretty much anything that you actually produce or think about or come up with or innovate in relation to your business. And this quote from Mark Getty I found really fascinating. He said that intellectual property is the oil of the 21st century, that in previous generations, particularly in America, great fortunes were made through mining oil and minerals from the earth. But in the 21st century, great fortunes are being made through selling and licensing and dealing in the creations of our minds. And so that makes intellectual property a really big concern for small businesses. And it's particularly through the use of copyright. So what is copyright? Copyright is legal ownership of that intellectual property. It's the right to control where and how it's published. It's the right to sell it, and it's the right to license it. The difference between selling and licensing is, so for example, say you had created a painting and you sold that painting to someone else, then they have the right to do whatever they like with that painting. You've relinquished all your rights in it, except the moral right to be identified as the author of the work. So your signature still stays on the painting, and you have the right to say that that's my work, I painted that, but the person you sold it to can hang it wherever they like. They can destroy it if they want to. They can do whatever they want. If you were only licensing it to them, then you would have more control over what they did with it. They would only be able to use it for specific purposes. The same goes for all forms of intellectual property. For example, anything from an ebook to a logo, to a brand, to a website, to anything you've created. The important thing to remember is that copyright only protects physical works. It doesn't protect ideas. So if you told someone about something you were creating, they could go off and use that. You don't have any copyright in it. It's still your intellectual property, but it's not actually copyrighted. To be copyrighted, it has to be in some form of physical form. And that could be anything from images to videos to recorded meditations to a blog post to an idea you've scribbled down on a piece of paper. So long as it's down on paper, as long as it's in some sort of tangible form, then it has copyright. Because copyright exists automatically the moment a work is produced. You don't need to put a copyright symbol on it. You don't need to sign it. You don't need any of those things to actually own the copyright in that work. But doing those things, putting a marker on it, putting a copyright symbol, signing it, making sure that your attribution is visibly there on the work is important if you want to stake your claim in it, because it makes it so much easier for you to prove that your role as the creator of that work. So should you actually be worried about copyright? The answer is actually not really. So in the survey that I did, I asked, has this actually ever happened to you, that you've discovered someone publishing or selling material that you personally developed for your business? And while a lot of people were concerned that it might happen, when I actually dug into it, we found that 81.4% had never experienced it, but that 18.6% had. So it's a relatively small proportion, less than a quarter. But it does happen, but it probably happens less often than people might suspect it would happen. So what can you do if you discover that your work is being misused? The first thing is that you need to notice that it's happening. Now, misuse of your work or an infringement of your copyright, to use the legal language, is something that could come to your notice in a number of ways. Towards the end of this webinar, I'll tell you a bit more about doing Google text and image searches or using plagiarism software to actually find out how your work is being used or if it's being used by other people. There's also Facebook keyword search. So in the search bar at the top of Facebook, you can type in keywords that are relevant to your business. This might be branding or art, or something that's really specific to you, such as a phrase that you use a lot. It could be something like lady posse or lady boss, to see what people are posting with that word in it. And you can just flick through that, do it once a week or once a month, and it really gives you a feel for how things are being used and will give you a good chance of noticing if stuff is not actually being used or is being used. Someone might tell you that they've seen your work or something that you've created being used by someone else, or you could just get lucky. You could just stumble across it and find out, oh look, that's actually mine and they're using it. Or that's actually someone else's and I'm using it. What am I going to do? So then the next thing is to decide what you're going to do. And there's a number of questions that can be really helpful in making that decision. You can ask yourself, is this actually worth pursuing? Because it's going to take time and effort. A lot of people these days with the new paradigm consciousness are thinking that all of this intellectual property actually belongs to everyone anyway. I'm just the person that it's chosen to channel through. And they tend to decide that actually it's not worth pursuing. I'm quite happy for other people to use it because they're putting their own spin on it. There could be differences, however, if they're using it personally, if they're just posting it on their personal page or sharing it with friends, or if they're using it commercially, if they're using your work to actually promote and sell their products. Another consideration could be, is their use accidental? Have they just shared something without thinking? Or is it a really flagrant breach where they've set out to use your work for their own gain without asking your permission or notifying you? And how does you feel about that? You can also ask, is this damaging to me? Is this costing me clients? Is this costing me my reputation? Is this Is this use inconsistent with the message that I want to put forward into the world? That might be a reason why you want to act. And now, what sorts of acts can you do? The first thing I would always recommend in most cases is to make personal contact with the person, to actually say to them, hey, look, I've noticed this is mine, what's going on, and really reach out to them and try and connect and find out a way forward that's acceptable to both of you. In a minute, I'll talk more about the Facebook Help Centre, because copyright infringement is against Facebook's terms of use, and they have a system in place for dealing with it. Another option is to get a lawyer to write a letter. Lawyers aren't necessarily all about litigation. Many lawyers are very happy to just help you in the negotiation stage to get your message across clearly. And often a lawyer's letter can have more seriousness to it, especially if the breach is very flagrant or very commercialised. A lawyer's letter can have that gravity, that authority that can get people to move where they might dismiss your personal approach to them. And the last option I've put there is mediation. Mediation can be a very good way if people feel that they have a right to do what they're doing and you feel like they don't. Mediation can be a way to really get together and have a conversation about what's happened, and in a safe space where everybody is respectful, and where the mediator helps you to listen to each other and to facilitate the conversation, so that you can really get to grips with what each of you want out of the situation and how you can go forward in a way that makes everybody, in a win-win way, that makes everybody satisfied. So, as I said, Facebook has a system. Facebook copyright is absolutely a breach, whether it occurs, copyright infringement is against the Facebook terms of use, whether that occurs on your personal page or on a business page. And they have a standard form available from the Help Centre, which you can use to report an infringement. So to find that, the arrow's in the wrong spot here, it actually should go to the Help menu. If you click on the Help menu on your desktop and then go to the Help Centre, or on mobile, if you click on these three little bars and then scroll right down to the bottom, you'll find the Help Centre there. It's a bit trickier on the mobile, it's harder to find stuff. So if you type copyright or copyright infringement in the search box, you'll get taken to the same pages as are here on the desktop. On the desktop, you choose report something, intellectual property issues. That'll bring up this menu, which you then choose copyright, which will then bring up this menu, which will choose reporting copyright infringement. And when you click on reporting copyright infringement, you actually get taken to a page which has a whole pile of facts, frequently asked questions. There's a lot of stuff there to think about, and it's quite comprehensive, so it leads you through the process. And one of the things that they do point out is this big but. Before you actually fill in the form and report the infringement, they ask you to do these things first, and these are things that are really common sense but important. Consider reaching out and connecting first, as I said. Even Facebook, all of these things. Copyright infringement is a serious legal allegation. So, you know, check your facts really carefully, reach out, see if you can resolve it without going down the formal path. And also be really, really certain about what you're saying, because there can be penalties for making false reports. Also, you need to collect your evidence. And this is in the form of screenshots, URLs, dates, times, anything that could be relevant. Collect it all together, save it in a folder, and do this early. Actually do this before you try and make contact, because after you make contact, if things go adversely, if things don't go the way you want them to go, then it's better that you've got all this evidence collected in advance before things start to get removed or blown out of proportion. And then before you submit the form, read the facts and get really clear on what the process is, because the person, one of the things you need to know is that the person you're complaining about, even if Facebook removes the material, they will give the person your contact information and encourage them to resolve the issues directly with you. So once again, Facebook tries to encourage an informal resolution the whole way through the process. I just got another person join us. Hi, Lolita. I'm just going to mute your audio there. Okay. The next thing is to seek professional help. There are going to be situations where seeking professional help is in your best interest. And these situations could be where if your content is being posted commercially or in a context which is harming your business reputation, you might decide that a more immediate, more formal solution is required, and that approach of actually talking to a lawyer about it, getting clear on what it is that you want, what your rights are, what their rights are, that can be an important conversation to have in advance. If you discover someone's actually selling the content that you have produced and making a profit from it, things get a lot more complicated, because that's the sort of situation where you're going to want compensation. You're going to generally want them to account to you for the profits that they've made from selling your work. And so in those situations, getting legal advice up front, even if you want to go through mediation or to negotiate a solution, getting that legal advice, getting clear on what has happened, what the cause of action is, what to do next is a good idea. And finally, the third situation I can see where you might prefer to seek professional help rather than dealing with it yourself is if you're worried about repercussions, if you think this person has the potential to get aggressive or to not be cooperative, or you just don't want to deal with them, then in that case, having a lawyer to convey your message for you in a more formal style, or even in a less formal style, but just to act as your representative, that can be a useful thing. So best practice for sharing, that's what we've talked about so far, is how to protect your own content. Now, what happens when you post third-party stuff, when you share other people's content? And these are the best practice things to do. Most of them, as I said, they're pretty much common sense. On Facebook, when you share something, it usually retains the little link at the top, which links things back to its original source, particularly if you're sharing a video or an image. Even if it doesn't, even if you're sharing something from outside Facebook onto Facebook, always try and trace it back and share from the original source, from the author's page or website, rather than saving it to your desktop and then reposting it as a sort of an orphaned piece of content. Even if it has a signature, this is really the polite thing to do, because it makes it possible for people to easily access their way back to the original author. And you can see why, if someone was sharing your content, you would want them to be doing it this way too. Absolutely, you all know this. Always acknowledge the author and never ever remove identifying marks. You'd be amazed how often I get people come and talk to me about someone who they've put the watermark on their work, but someone's decided to sort of Photoshop it out, and really not best practice, totally unacceptable. Sorry. Now, this is much more important when you're sharing things on your business page and in business groups than on your personal page. And we'll talk about why that is on the next screen. But just to remember that there is that distinction between using things commercially and using them personally. And finally, if in doubt, if you can't find the author, if you can't find the source, or if you've tried to contact the author and you haven't been able to get in contact with them, and you're just not sure whether something is a good idea to share, then don't post it. Use it as inspiration. Think about how you can create something original that will fulfill the same purpose. Your respect for their creativity, for their originating of the source, that can lead you to further inspiration. And it's a brilliant idea for the simple reason that whatever you create is going to be so much more on point with your branding, your inspiration, your message, what you want to have out there in the world, that even if you've used that thing that you really wanted to post of theirs as a jumping off point, that inspiration can take you further and really consolidate your message in a much more effective way. Just lost my screen there for a second. There we go. Okay, so that brings us to memes, and memes are really the game changer in the whole thing. And there's a lot of confusion about sharing memes, because how do you find the author? In most cases, you can't. They're very anonymous. They're hugely shared. There's no way to link them back to the original source, or you might find them through a Google image search or some other way. First, we'll start with what is a meme. So a meme is a piece of content that becomes popular and spreads widely across the internet. It may even go viral. It can also, these days, more often refer to a combination of image and text, often a quote, which is used in marketing or on social media. Although, to be a meme, it's not usually directly selling or promoting anything. So it might be just conveying your message, rather than, for example, an image and quote that's advertising a webinar or selling an actual product, but just that sort of inspirational post that people create. Now, to go viral means that it basically spreads dramatically, widely around the globe, and it generates a phenomenal amount of likes and shares and comments, and it gets variants are produced, it gets adapted and rehashed and changed, and everybody makes their own. So that in identifying its source can be really, really difficult, as I said. And it's encouraged to produce its own thing. And that's really the point of memes. That memes are made to be shared widely for the fun of it. People who create memes want them to go viral. So how does that fit in with copyright and all of that stuff about intellectual property and ownership? Are they just abandoning their right to be acknowledged as ownership? And in some cases, they're not. In some cases, memes have actually been trademarked. The Grumpy Cat is one that's actually been trademarked, and they sell licenses to use it in connection with commercial products. So memes, while they are meant to be shared and spread widely, they are still copyrighted. Because copyright exists in the work when it's created, and the person who created it owns that copyright unless they've sold or licensed it. So memes actually operate under the concept of fair use. And all around the globe, every copyright, every country that has copyright law, every common law country, they all have pretty much the same 4 factors that they use to find whether copyright is fair, is whether the use comes under the fair use principles. And that could be the purpose for which the work's being used, which distinguishes between personal, non-profit, and commercial use. So as I said before, posting something on your personal page is a different concept to posting something on your business page, is a different concept to posting something to actually sell or promote your own work. Another consideration will be the type of work used. So posting an original artwork that someone has really slaved over and is a full expression of their own inspiration as without attribution is going to be different from posting a meme, which is, as we know, meant to be widely shared. Another thing that's often talked about in fair use, not so relevant for memes, is the amount of work used in relation to the whole work. This is really useful for when you're quoting or posting or sharing blog posts, for example. If you just put a quote up on your page and link to the author of the blog and the actual blog article on the author's website, that is fair use, whereas copying and pasting the whole blog article and pasting it on your page would not be fair use. And finally, the effect of the infringing use on the potential value or marketability of the work. And this is what we were talking about with memes. So, for example, with the Grumpy Cat meme, they want everybody to share that Grumpy Cat meme. They want everybody to really like and comment. They want it to be fully, widely known, because that actually enhances its potential value and marketability. It allows them to, it actually creates the intellectual property that has value that they can then sell and license for other people to use commercially. But if you use it to advertise your own product, if it was just free reign and you could use it for whatever you want to sell your own thing, then I'm going to check. So it's just checking quickly to make sure that there wasn't any problems I was missing out on. So that's wonderful. So what was I saying? So yeah, that's right. If you were using it to sell your own product, then that is where it becomes a problem, because you're actually infringing on their ability to sell or license their grumpy cat, because everyone's just using it for whatever they want. They're using it to sell their own products without any control. And now I'm jumping on now to this. So that's what we're just saying. Commercial use is not fair. It's not fair use. So if you found something that you want to use for your business, to sell a product or to just promote a product or just to inspire and educate your audience, the safest options for business use are first, connect with the author. Ask for their permission before sharing an image or artwork. If they say no, well, don't use it. If you can't get in contact with them, if they don't reply, think about it. Why do I need to use this? Is it really worth using when I'm not sure that that it's for their benefit? If you're just if you can't get in contact with them and you still want to share it, post a précis explaining the relevance of a blog post or article or image to your work area, making sure the link is back to the original source so that you're creating that connection externally. The next thing is to really care about the information that you're sharing. If you can't find the attribution, don't post it on your business page. And consider yourself really as a content curator. So you're actually, it's like being in a museum where you've got all the exhibits out there. You're actually trying to identify where they came from and explain their relevance. So you're not just a $2 shop spreading all the stuff out there and who cares where it's made or where it came from. You're a museum putting quality content out there, and you're identifying that content and explaining its relevance. It's sort of a mindset thing that really makes a difference. And also making something original that conveys your own message just as well. And I can't say this enough, but if you're actually selling or promoting something that is in your business, always, always, always use your original content to sell and promote your own work. Never use someone else's unless you have actually paid them for the right. So, or you have explicit permission in writing from them that you can do that. So for example, if you've got a logo that someone has produced for you, or a graphic someone has produced for you and you've paid them for it, then you have bought the right to use it. That's fine. Or if you've created it yourself, that's fine. If it's just something you found around the place, you need to be really, really careful before using it for that commercial purpose. So here are some quick and useful tools for when you're creating your own images and things. So Pixabay, royalty-free stock photos that are in the public domain. They're totally free for commercial use, no attribution required. That's where I get all of my images from. Really, really great, useful resource. Page Tracker. This is a free online plagiarism checker. You can upload your article, your blog post, your ebook manuscript. You can copy and paste a section from a website and save it as a doc and then upload that. And it will check it against every site on the internet and also against academic articles. So this is a brilliant way to find out whether you have inadvertently copied your sources, if the amounts of inspiration that you've included when you were because I know how hard it can be when you're gathering information from everywhere to create your own resources, particularly in writing an ebook or a blog post or an article. It can be really hard to know, have I changed things enough to actually make it original, or have I just copied too much? And this can really highlight that for you. It can also be a great way and a lot of fun to find out whether anyone else has reposted your work. So if you've got an article that's really going viral and you want to know if other people are sharing it appropriately, or if it's actually being shared inappropriately, then this is a good way to check. And finally, you can use Google to search for images as well as texts. So if you go to this images.google, you can search Google with an image instead of a text, and that can be a great way to find out if your work is being used. It can also be a great way to find out the source of an image. If you've got an image you love, but you've got no idea who actually took it or where it came from, this can be a great way to find that information. And it also can be fun to find out whether an image that you want to use in for commercial purpose is as unique and as different as you think it is. So, for example, this castle picture that I've been using for my my Serenity series stuff, I found that on Pixabay, and I did a Google image search for it. And for example, you can see here it was found on Pixabay. Here's another one from Pixabay. So I can find out its source. I can also find out that it's been used by an English tourism company. It's been used for castle photos to sell castle photos on Etsy. And also it's one of 15 perfect hideouts during a zombie apocalypse. And I think that's pretty cool. I think the biggest reason why you need all of this stuff, not to be fearful and protect yourself from being litigated against, or even to be possessive and control your own content. The thing is that just knowing about this stuff and making conscious choices has value in that it shifts your mindset from being an amateur to being a professional, to really grounding your castle in the air. And that is 100% what I am on about and my passionate mission. And also, playing detective not only avoids the hassles, it's fun. Now, I actually have gone over time, so I've only got sort of 4 minutes left on my free Zoom subscription. I did try and set up Webinar Ninja, but unfortunately I really wasn't happy with the slide quality. It was just the slides with these little tiny boxes inside a huge black square, and they were unreadable. So I'm going to keep playing with that, but I had to take advantage of my free Zoom. And so I'm just going to check the chat box now and stop sharing my screen. So any questions? Is there anything arising out of that I can explain further or help you out with? Everyone's saying that that's great, that they got good information from it, so that's brilliant. I'll be doing these series once a month on the first Thursday of every month. I'll probably start them at 8 o'clock from now on, because I can actually guarantee I don't have kids around at that time. My kids tend to sleep in because we homeschool, which is an awesome bonus of doing that. So no questions. That's great. Oh, thank you. Easy to understand, which is awesome. Has there anyone got any suggestions for what topic they'd like me to cover next month? I'm happy to talk on just about any legal issue affecting small business. Some of the ideas I'd had was maybe trademarks, or contracts, or joint ventures for collaboration. What would you like to know more about? Privacy policies? Absolutely, Lizzie. That'd be an easy one. Statements to have on online course platforms, terms and conditions? Absolutely. Definitely can do that one. Okay, great suggestions there. Okay, 2 votes for terms and conditions. That will be next month's. So on Thursday, the first Thursday in August, the second, so I'm adding my website to a meme I create, adding a meme I create to my website. Can someone else use this and remove my website details? If they did, that would be a copyright infringement. If you created the meme yourself, if you created it using Canva or some kind of graphic program, then and you put your website details, stamped them on it, then you have created copyright. Just by creating the meme, you created copyright. You've made your attribution obvious by adding your website details to it. If they remove those website details, if they Photoshop them out, if they put their own in the place, then that is absolutely a copyright infringement. And it can be dealt with in some of the ways that I've described earlier in the webinar, either by contacting them directly and asking them to remove it, or to put your own back up there, to put your own details back up. There could be a number of things you might want from them. You might want a public apology. You might want a private apology. You might want them to stop using it and take it down. If they're using it in relation to selling their products, you might want them to compensate you for their use of the project, for the use of the meme. So basically, there's that whole range. And the thing to remember is, just when you create a physical work, you automatically own the copyright in it without anything more. Adding the copyright symbol, adding your website details, adding your name to it is all really, really useful for enforcing or providing evidence that it is yours, and also making it so much easier for people who want to share your meme, who want to use it, to actually acknowledge who you are and acknowledge you as the author of the source of that fantastic inspiration. So I think that's pretty much all I've got time for. I better say goodbye before Zoom chucks me out. Thank you so much for joining me today. It's been really fun, and I hope it's been useful for you too.